now that he's a jobless, freeloader living off his underlings, he needs to make his own income. And of course, what does he do? He decides to become a streamer. Hello, and welcome to another Dead Pixel. We're a podcast about anime, entertainment, video games, life, a little bit of everything in between. Uh, this is episode 101, and my name is Joe, and with me, our professor, the one to teach us all about numerology, Nick. How you doing, Nick?
Yeah, numerology is something that I've been studying it tangentially for a really long time, but I've only really gotten into it in the past, you know, 12 years or so. So it's something that you got to do a lot of math. It seems like it's going to be hard math. It's not that hard. Um, but in fact, the harder the math that you're doing for it, the more likely you are to be wrong. So most of the time I just roll like chicken bones and dice together. And that tells me a lot. That's how I make most of my biggest life choices. Or whenever I gamble, I ask the numbers, and they tell me to bet against the Chiefs. Hasn't been going great so far, but I just keep double or nothing, and hopefully they won't break my legs before I make my money back. But yeah, it's something that I don't like to talk about too much, but maybe I'll if I get some good news, I'll let you know. How are you doing, Joe?
Doing all right. Yeah, I always get my wisdom from the Magic 8 Ball, and it always tells me to come back again later. So, yep, never really does me any luck.
It doesn't do you any good.
Uh,
Um, I did get some wisdom though this past weekend. We have this little festival. It's called Worst Fest, and it's in south of Austin, in a little town called New Braunfels, and they tell me that it's the biggest Oktoberfest outside of Germany. Uh, so um, anyway, that has been going on, and I went to that last Saturday, and they had a bunch of very interesting Oktoberfest or German style beers. I got a Dunkel. We drank five. The Dunkel was the first one, and I don't remember the names of the others, um, just because I wasn't paying attention anymore. Um, but yeah, it was super fun, and it was really cool. Uh, and we listened to like a bunch of German polka and ate greasy food and drank beers that were pretty interesting. They were good, if nothing else. But we just wanted to get those instead of getting the normal stuff we can get at the grocery store. So that was pretty cool. Have you ever been to a Oktoberfest or anything? I guess like that.
yes, actually. All right, been to stuff like it. We have quite a few here. Really strange that you're doing your Oktoberfests now, uh, in November when most Oktoberfests are usually September. Uh, so,
I think it's probably just because it's so hot in September.
yeah,
So I mean,
yeah,
because
you are in a terrible place.
I thought
That's
it
right.
I thought it
Uh,
was I thought it was weird. I thought it was weird that it was like the beginning of November that they were doing it. I don't know anything about Oktoberfest, but it sounds like it should be in October, but I don't know. Whatever. Anyway, so I was just like, well, that's when they want to do it. But
I was
yeah.
questioning. I had to question though that. So I asked the internet gods just now about the uh, the biggest Oktoberfest in the U.S. because I'm like, it just seems really weird that Texas would have the biggest Oktoberfest. I don't know what the German group is there, but and according to the internet, it looks like it's supposed to be Oktoberfest Zinniziati. So it's supposed to be a Cincinnati, Ohio location, and
Oh.
it's apparently host over. 80,000 attendants each year. So
Okay.
that's a handful.
Well, I
Um,
was lied to.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but
It's fine. I honestly thought it might have been Wisconsin. That wouldn't have surprised me, or Minnesota or something like that. Uh,
well, I
but
mean,
yeah,
it is weird because like this like Central Texas has a ton of German named towns and stuff like that. So like a lot of Germans did like settle here. So like when you start to drive through, you go, okay, like that's German and that's German, that's German. So it's not too crazy that they would have one here. But whenever somebody said it's the biggest one outside of Germany, I was kind of like narrowed my eyes a little bit, and I was like, okay. And then I just kept drinking.
once again, I like it made me. I never knew where it would have been. I would have, like I said, my money would have been Wisconsin. Uh,
Yeah,
but yeah, so in Korea, when quite a while ago now, the beer scene was very new. They finally opened up a chain of restaurants. There was five of them called Oktoberfest, and they had a really good deal where it was like $10 all you can drink. Um, that was it. It was like $10. So the idea is in the drinking culture in Japan when they do or Japan, I'm sorry, Korea when they do this is they're like you're gonna go buy a lot of food. You don't just drink. You don't do the Western thing of just give me alcohol. Like no, you're expected to have
yeah.
food with your meal, and that's how they're gonna make their money. You know, like you food with your beer, and that's how you constantly order. And you don't camp out like the Western trash that we were. So we were a international group from uh,
uh,
South Africa, Scotland, France, England, and all over the U.S. There was at least four of us from the U.S., three, four of us,
yeah.
and we went out there. They opened at like 5 and 4 or 5, and then we stayed there till like 11 when we can feasibly take our last taxi and to get to our train, and then take an hour long train ride on the way home. So that's because we're out in the sticks. So that was our goal, and that's what we did. We did that like it was a Saturday, pretty much our Saturday routine for the entire month of October. And there was any location, it was just like $10. Um, so we just camped out at one. And that first year, the second year, we're like they changed it up. They're like roaming locations this weekend only at this spot will be that special event the next weekend. And so that's what we did is we ended up making like we joked we should have had tour shirts saying each place we hit up.
It's
Um,
like a pub
but yeah,
crawl kind of that way.
yeah, it was pretty much. It was like every weekend was a new place. They had about four solid just choices of beer. Um, and then they had like one for an extra dollar per glass. You can get it was their shandy, their personal shandy mix. And so if you wanted to change it up, but yeah, they had really good food, really good drink, and this was still at the very early stages of the craft brew scene in Korea. So you really couldn't get any beer like that at the time without just buying the imports, the canned stuff. And so we were super stoked. And we probably ruined a lot of income for them, but it was a good time by us for sure. So
Yeah, I think
that's
I think food is. I mean, I know they want you to buy food so they can make more money or whatever, but I do think food is like the way to go when you're doing any kind of drinking. I think you want to be eating a lot of food because you want to slow that that alcohol metabolization down as much as you can. You don't want it to hit you all at once. That's when bad things happen. But yeah, you guys just went straight past that warning sign and just
we were all in our mid to late 20s, maybe early 30s, and we're just like just this is it,
broke.
this is our choice. We're happy with it. We're gonna ride this out, and we're gonna drink on the train ride all the way home.
Yeah.
Because you can do that in Korea. You can drink
It,
on the train, and
in,
that's okay,
in
so long as
your,
you're not loud and obnoxious. And we weren't.
I
So,
mean,
and
like
then we
in your 30s is when you can have beer and food. In your 20s is when you can have beer or food. It's pretty much the way of it.
Yeah, and then the next decision would be, now that we're back and we're all still really buzzed, we're like, do we go to the convenience store and just camp out at the picnic table outside the convenience store and just drink for more time? Yeah, like yeah, let's do that.
You
Um,
extend the buzz with
always, that
with
there's your advice. Always extend the buzz. Um,
yeah. I
but
mean,
yes,
you gotta do what you gotta do, right?
Yeah, well, there's quite a few Oktoberfests around here too, and the burbs of Chicago. Every little area has their own. It seems like some better than others. My town does a. It's gotten better, but it wasn't. It's not anything. They've only started like 4 years ago,
Mm.
so it was like, yeah, they're still growing. The other neighborhoods though, they do some really good ones. One of them was doing like win a trip to Germany, like straight up, and I
Dang.
was like, wow, that's pretty impressive.
That's pretty wild.
So,
Yeah. I
all
mean,
right.
as long as you got a little bit, as long as you got, cause like, I don't really care about the size of it or whatever. I just want like to be able to get some really good tasting beer that I can't get anywhere else. And I mean, if you can do that, even if it's just like a dude who's like brewing some like German style beers in his basement, and like we can like have it at a park, then that's with some friends and a little bit of like grilling or whatever. That's all I care about.
Yeah, but the dunk you can't go wrong with the dunkel and or dunkel. I mean, if you like them darker and a little sweeter, that was actually the first kind of I think that or a bock, and
Mm.
I made that as my first beer batch in Korea. Like it was still questionable whether or not it was legal to make your home brew there at the time, but we did our paint bucket and like you got your all in one kit. Just literally boil and add water and then add the
Wow.
yeast and then let it sit for like a month to 2 months. And so we let it sit and then bottle it, let it sit for another couple months. We had a bunch of them on rotation between a couple of us. So we'd always have one we'd have each have our own batch to share
Hmm.
while we had at least another batch in bottled waiting and the other batch still in the in the tub. So it was actually pretty fun. Once again, terrible for my liver, but good times all around.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Alcohol is never good for you.
all right. Well, uh, despite alcohol, we sometimes talk about news about games or entertainment. So, yeah, what do you got for us, man?
Um, a couple things here. First up, Phil Spencer confirmed that they are working on an Xbox handheld. This has been rumored pretty much all year that they are working on some kind of handheld over there at Xbox. Um, and it won't be out for quite some time. So we're not really talking about those kind of things really. But I'm just kind of trying to imagine what it's going to really be like. Like what is it? Like what are like what part of the market are they really going to fit into? What is their niche? Um, I feel like they are going to be competing pretty much directly with the Steam Deck, um, and I just wonder how it will go. I think Steam Deck don't have one, haven't used one, but from looks of it and from the popularity of it, seems like it's a pretty okay product, at the very least, especially because you already have your Steam library on there. Um, so yeah, it struck me as an interesting move, um, and I just kind of wonder about it. And I was wondering what you think. Do you think it's going to be a good thing, or do you think it's going to crash and burn? How do you figure it's going to end up?
I think the most important part is going to be the OS. You can't really have the machines out there that run Windows don't do it great. And one of the nice things about the Steam Deck is the fact that it's running Proton, which is like the Linux, special uh, software, and they've really come leaps and bounds. They made it work really well. And if you're going to have this thing, you have to have the interface really nice. You can't have it be the Microsoft Store. The Microsoft Store is kind of ass, and it has always been garbage. So you really need to have a nice front end. Um, they're probably going to try to make it look like the Xbox, consoles, but that interface isn't that great either. It really isn't.
Yeah,
So the big thing is how are you going to get these things to run, and how much bloat are you going to have on there? Because Proton being Linux and all that, it's really streamlined. And everything's being made custom. Like everyone's making custom settings. for their games. They developers want their game to be on Steam Deck. It just makes it that much more appealing, and it's really nice because you almost got a preset plug and play, uh, settings. Like if you want to tweak it, you can. You can overclock things, or you can ramp up things and kill the battery if you or whatever. But the hardware itself, they can most definitely do the hardware. It's the software that's really going to make this more important. And yeah, like you mentioned, this has been in discussion for kind of a long time now. Like everyone's kind of knew about it since their famous quote of, was it the biggest technological leap ever in a generation? So people are like, that's a big claim. That was from the one higher up than Phil Spencer. I can't remember her name now. But yeah, that was their quote when within like a year ago, and they were like, "Yeah, if you're thinking about what PlayStation to PS1 to PS2, that was pretty massive." Or from Super Nintendo 64, that's pretty big too. So I'm like, you're saying the biggest technological leap ever in a generation. That's mighty big words. Uh,
Well,
that's not going to be a handheld.
it won't look that. I mean, it won't look that way. Like it might technically. I don't. I am very dubious about that statement. I remember when that was said, and and whatever they say, it'd be astonishing if it came out and it looked that way. Whatever their their actual product is going to be. Um, I find it hard to believe, but I just feel like they have a lot of they've got too many things that are not really ready, as far as I can tell, for a handheld system. I think the idea to have because like they also like another piece of news is their marketing campaign where they're kind of turning everything into an Xbox, for better or worse. On the marketing campaign, the idea of that is really good. I think to have a standalone machine and then have like two tiers of that is kind of, I don't know how smart that is, but at the very least to have a standalone machine and then to have your games available like on PC is is really good. I think that the Switch works. I think that handhelds work. Um, uh, I think the Switch works in Japan because the culture is so public transportation based. So a lot of kids, a lot of like man children, um, and they're riding the trains every day, so they have like 20 minutes or more per day where they're just standing there doing nothing. So they could be on their phone, like a lot of people are, or they can take out a game and get some better gaming time in. Um, for Xbox, I feel like their audience is American, um, and they need to do different things to break into other markets first, um, before trying to do this. And I just don't see a lot of I don't see a lot of Americans being like, I need a I need an Xbox handheld right now. It works for Steam Deck because, and I don't even know how well it's really working for Steam Deck, but it seems to be working pretty well for Steam Deck because you already have this library, and so it's just like you don't even have to buy any games, dude. You just now you can like go on a trip or do whatever and take your a good chunk of your PC gaming, with you. Um, with Xbox, it seems like a bigger ask to me. Um, but if they can get, Game Pass is a pretty good deal still. And they've got a lot of stuff on there, and they're putting even more on there all the time. So you know, in a way, it seems like it might be able to do something pretty interesting, and kind of eat the Steam Deck's lunch. But I think that's where they would have to go with it, is where they're basically trying to come and eat Steam's lunch, um, which is tough.
But when you have something like the Asus ROG Ally, the Asus handheld, that's running Windows, you can run Game Pass on it. So you don't necessarily need a dedicated Microsoft branded handheld. And that was always their like that's kind of their goal is to infect every piece of tech, whether it be your TV, a lot of newer TVs like I think some LGs and Samsungs have it available. You got those 4K Amazon Fire Sticks, phones, tablets. They all can stream, from Game Pass. So they already have access to all that. So that's kind of they have to do something special, or they just have, and the only thing they could really do special is just nailing down the form factor and the design, making sure the battery life is good, making sure the OS is quick and responsive because you don't want it bogged down. You don't want to have to wait too long for menus or switching. If you
Yeah.
give me a laptop in a Steam Deck form factor, that's not what I'm looking for, nor is that what I want. So it's kind of weird, if they're making it, they need to have it do more than just games, but at the very least, they have to make it do the games really well. And once you have to change up your menu system, you have to make it very streamlined, very efficient, less ads and just garbage that I don't want to look at.
Yeah.
So
Well, I
yeah,
mean,
we'll have to see how that plans out.
like the Switch kind of secretly became a bit of an indie machine, not as much as Steam, but it did kind of become a good place to go play like indie games, games that are not really going to be too hard on the hardware, and maybe Xbox is going for something like that. Maybe they have plans to bring in a lot of indie games or get a lot of indie games first. Um, and maybe that's going to line up with whenever they actually release this handheld. That would be a good move. I would think. I don't know how likely they are to do that, but if you can be like, hey, we have all of your Bethesda, Activision, Blizzard games on here that run really well, and we have like a slew of indies, and you have Game Pass to kind of mix all that together, along with like newer old games or older new games or however you want to word that. There there's a path there where you can be like, okay, that's pretty interesting. I think if they nail the build quality, um, and I just don't know. Like I feel like if the I would need it to be at a higher price point than the Switch, and it would have to be
You mean a
like
lower price point?
no. I think it would need to be a higher price point than the Switch, but very much worth it. I think you'd have to go, dang, this is a nice piece of tech that I'm carrying around. Feels good, works really well, runs everything that I want to. Um, because they don't have the uh, they don't have sort of the name factor that Nintendo games are going to have. That they don't have that that fanboy quality that those games are going to drive sales for, at least not in the same way. So I feel like they have to do everything else, and they have to probably take a pretty good haircut on what is actually being put out there. Like to me, I would sell this first thing at a loss. I would expect to sell it at a loss just so people go, dang, this is a really, really, really great value. You get people stuck on it, so that Gen 2, you bring the price up a little bit, but people are like, okay, I get it, and I'm in for something that's a little bit more expensive, for maybe less value, but on the iteration rather than the first one. But anyway, it remains to be seen. I think it's interesting though. It's a place where they could really crash and burn, but they could also do something kind of cool, I think.
Yeah, well, I think you have it right with the idea of getting the indies first. Limited time exclusivity before they go out and do everything else. Problem is, once again, is if it's on their platform, it's going to be available on Game Pass, which Game Pass is then going to be available on other things,
Mhm.
other handheld devices already that exist. So it's kind of uh, due to their ecosystem, the way they have things set up, they're kind of they can't really do anything too special with their handheld that can't be done somewhere else, unless if they overspec their handheld itself. I mean, and indies are really important, but it's going to be a lot of they're going to have to make like straight up get Xbox exclusive titles that they're not going to be able to get on anywhere else, including Game Pass? Question mark. I don't know. It's they're really in a dilemma, and that's the catch 22 because the moment they do it on Game Pass, and the Game Pass is available on almost everything else, then they don't you automatically say, well, I don't need the handheld anymore because it's on Game Pass. Um,
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to Nintendo, yeah, the Switch became really popular because the Switch copied what Sony Vita did actually, because Vita really brought the indies into light when in a handheld form factor, and like that was the one thing Vita did exceptionally well. And the Switch, unfortunately, they can't push the hardware limit until they get their new system out because a lot of new games are either they're starting to chug, they're starting to bog down a lot, and Steam already said that they're not going to make a Steam 2 until there's substantial graphic tech. Like they're not just making small iterative changes. They make sure that the Steam Deck 2 is actually something of note. So we probably won't see one of those for another like my guess is 2025 at the very earliest, probably end, but probably 2026.
Yeah.
Because the new hardware, all the new graphics cards are going to be coming out in 2025. So you'll probably get the mobile ones later on down the road. Uh, so yeah, it's going to be a little bit yet, and that gives depending on how quick they or how long Xbox has been planning this. I mean, they might be able to shoot a gap for something between before Steam Deck 2 comes out, but after Switch 2. And Switch 2
Yeah.
is probably going to be underpowered anyway, so that's the one thing they'll have is like we have something stronger than the Switch 2.
Yeah, their thing is going to have to be we are technically the hardware is better than the Switch 2, which I don't think will be too hard to beat. Switch, Nintendo's not really going for that. They're going to be underpowered in general. So it shouldn't be too bad. It's just they've got to make it so that it's a weird thing. It's
You can make it what they could do is for a handheld for an Xbox, they can make it a true handheld, but also with a similar functionality as the PlayStation Portal. So you have
well,
a decent screen, a decent hand feel, but then make it a legit portable system to run on its own, but also with some sort of docking and connectivity feature or something like that. It's
yeah.
a really weird
If it could be
system setup.
if it could be a more legit like streaming, like game streaming thing, then that might work. But like, I mean, this like they're always talking about how they don't make any money on the actual hardware. They don't make any money on the systems. They make all their money on the attach rate and how many games people actually buy. So maybe it's something that they put out there, not expecting to really sell that much or that well, and it's just another way for them to kind of like it's like maybe they don't need to beat Steam Deck, maybe they don't need to beat Nintendo. They just need 10, 15, 20% share of the handheld market while they have 10, 20% share of like the PC market, while they have 10, 20% share of the normal console market. And it's like, okay, if you have a tiny piece of all these pies, maybe that's how they're bringing in a lot of money, and then they can grow from there. Like maybe it's kind of like they're just trying to get a little bit of everybody else's stuff without having to maybe do as much work or be as exposed if the market turns away. Because if the market turns away from, if the market turns away from Nintendo's like handheld stuff, or if it turns away from consoles, or if it turns away from PC, then like each of those other companies are kind of sunk. Whereas if Xbox is diversifying, then they can weather a storm in one of the other markets. I don't know. I'm just trying to figure out how they're thinking.
Well, I one thing is, I'm no longer hopeful that that the gaming industry, none of them will try to sell at a loss anymore. This last generation, they pretty much sold it at at cost.
Yeah.
And then with with the PlayStation Pro proving that they are no longer trying, like, or at least I don't believe they're selling it at cost. They're trying to make a profit now because due to scalping and whatnot. And look, like we mentioned last week, the fact that they actually have a proper supply, meaning that the scalpers lose out, uh, because that's the whole point. Is like Nvidia did the same thing with the current gen or the 40 series cards. They're like, hey, let's bump up the price, uh, and they're because the scalpers were able to get a bunch of money from everyone, so why don't we get the that same money? Which, yeah, I hear you, but it's not consumer friendly and it sucks. So I think that the all the major players will be selling it at either at cost at best, or they'll be trying to make a profit from it. And yeah, I think that if they can, the one benefit of all this is if Microsoft makes a handheld, they'll be optimizing for an easier or lower spec system, meaning that people with older PCs can then start playing Game Pass more efficiently because they'll have a properly, like spec things. Like so long as you meet that, the same hardware as their handheld, and that can run it smoothly, so can your old gaming rig.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true. That's true. So it's a interesting proposition. I will be very intrigued by what they come out with finally.
All right. Well, what else we got?
This is something that you brought up, but Death Stranding now available for Xbox. So we're kind of continuing on with our Xbox theme here, but which I kind of glossed over this article, not really thinking about what it really means. But you were talking to me prior to the podcast about kind of what it means for Hideo Kojima. So I was
Yeah, because it kind of just shadow dropped, is what it did. It's like, and no fanfare, no nothing. It was just like it's on Xbox now all of a sudden, and it's just like this was last week, and it was like, yeah. Turns out it was like 5 years, pretty much to the day. Um, so I was like, okay, well, obviously there's some sort of contract behind the scenes and some exclusivity there. And with that meaning, uh, we already know that Kojima is going to be making the new game and the new media experience with Microsoft. They showed them like actually doing being in a Hollywood studio, like for filming, and he wants to make it not just a game, but like a whole bit, which kind of is in line with Microsoft. Microsoft, back when the Xbox One first came out, they wanted that to be the one box to rule out your home entertainment console, and that was when they were trying to do like a Halo show, Halo, um, or like the game. They were going to do the same thing with Quantum Break. They're trying to make that TV show happen. So they really wanted to have like so. This seems to be like one of those attempts. So far, none of those attempts have really worked out too well. Um, and I know Remedy's trying to do it again with their newest Alan Wake stuff or Control with Annapurna, was it? They were trying to make some new
right.
cross media stuff.
Well, like
And
like
Annapurna Entertainment.
like you're telling me about how like this is like part of Hideo Kojima's sort of plan to because he wants to do other things besides games, I think, and it was like a way for him to get his production company basically get the rights to Death Stranding, and kind of
Yeah,
get back in full
I
control
no
of that stuff.
confirmation, but like it makes sense that he would have had some sort of clause
It
or something
seems
where
like
like once
that.
the 5 years was done, he gets to try to buy it back. And so yeah, he it worked out well for him because obviously he needs someone to fund Death Stranding. He couldn't just fund it out of his own pocket. Sony took the quote unquote gamble. A lot of people got, his new company got pretty rave reviews. It looks wonderful, does a lot of weird stuff. Kojima diehards are super happy with it. Um,
Yeah.
everyone else is kind of mixed, but everyone agrees it looks great. Um, Granted, it's all running off of the Decima engine,
Okay.
so it's all thanks to like the Horizon team and such. So this
Yeah.
is a unique experience.
I mean,
And now
it
that they've proven themselves to be a good studio, now they're getting Microsoft to foot the bill for the next thing.
yeah, because when he came away from Konami, I mean, like I don't I don't know all of his finances, but I imagine that he really didn't have anything because he had been making games for them. I don't think he really owned any part of it, at least not a significant enough part of it. So he really just had his name and goes to Sony and they're like, well, we got to make money. So we'll make money off of you making a game, but we'll give you a, but he was probably, but we'll give you a better deal than Konami. We'll get you in, we'll make money, you'll make money. And you can make the bet that if you can make enough money, you can buy it back from us. And he seems to have made that bet and got it back. And now he'll continue on doing, you know, like whatever else he wants to, I guess. But it seemed like it was probably a good move. He was, it seems pretty savvy, honestly, if that is the way that it was planned, because it seems to be how it has shaken out. So anyway, I thought that was interesting because it was just like, oh, it's on Xbox. It's like, yeah, but that actually means quite a bit more. Thanks to you for pointing that out.
Yeah, I mean, it's once again, a lot of people have been waiting for him to get just full on into directing film. It's just like
Yeah.
his his whole madman persona, crazy characters, wacky scenarios, um, ripping lots of stuff from the 80s, different franchises. I'm like, yeah, it kind of plays well with that. It works really well with video games because you can stretch, stretch your beliefs and kind of play with that medium. But I'm more curious about him doing a series than I am about him just doing a straight movie. Like, it's kind of hard to do a lot of that stuff. I mean, you can do something Christopher Nolan style, I guess, Inception or something like that, and I think it'd play well. But with Kojima being a quote unquote new uh, film director or something like that, it would be difficult, I think, to pull off straight from the start.
Yeah, I think movies are not the way to go in this day and age. I think a TV show would be a lot better for him, because you can kind of target it a bit better. You can have it's not quite so do or die, um, and you can tell a longer, weirder story. A weird story in a movie form, big risk. It's just a really big risk. If you can have like 10 episodes or even like 8 episodes to make it weird, but also go, it's weird, but hang on a minute, let me explain. Then I think you have a lot more people that are willing to do it. Also, you can just have a lower budget per minute, of film time, and people won't really balk at it or be like, it's somehow it carries over better. But so yeah, we'll see what he comes up with.
All right, cool. All right, what else you got?
Okay, so speaking of film and TV, um, uh, Amazon Prime is working on a Lara Croft TV show, and they seem to be in talks with Sophie Turner from Game of Thrones. She had a starring is generous. It's a generous thing to say, but she had a role, somewhat significant role in Game of Thrones, um, and so they're talking with her to be the new Lara Croft in their show. And I found it interesting because it seems like a pretty good fit. You kind of you've got an actress with some chops, but not a whole lot that she's done that's like really big. Where she was like the main lead in this. If she's Lara Croft, she's going to be the lead, in Tomb Raider. So I found that to be kind of interesting. Yeah, it just seems sort of promising to me. I actually like it. I actually like it that it sounds mean to say this, but like she's not like a big time actress. I like it when relative unknowns, not that she's an unknown, but I like it when relative unknowns or people that you have less expectations for end up with roles like this. I feel like it's a good way for them to break out and be able to do more with it. I think that they also have more to prove than a really well established person, because like a really well established person, like for example Angelina Jolie in the first Tomb Raider movies, she didn't care if that did well or not. She was getting paid. She'd already won an Oscar by that point, and uh, made a significant amount of money. And she was like, I'll be in your video game movie." So I'm actually more hopeful because I'm hoping that that Sophie Turner will have a bit to prove, and will go out of her way to do a good job, and we might actually get a better series than we maybe otherwise would have. If in fact all of this comes through, it seems like they're just in talks right now, but she seems excited. So anyway, I just wanted to tack
So,
that on there.
did you ever get around to watching the 2018 Tomb Raider remake?
I'd only seen pieces of it. I heard that it was good until the end. No spoilers, but
I thought it was all right. No spoilers, but I thought it was is as well as like it was before the Sonic movie, so it's like yeah, it's better than I expected. It's very much a it's kind of a retelling of the remake game, of the games, and
okay.
it's like yeah, at one point she literally falls asleep, and then you can tell the experience points she got, she cashed them in, because
Oh,
the next scene she's literally running through stealthing and like taking out fools, and I'm like oh yeah, if I think about it like a video game, and then she just literally put her stats in the right spot and learn a couple new skills. I'm like, this makes it so much more entertaining, and it was actually all right.
well,
Uh,
like the good
I
things
mean,
the good things I heard about it was that she actually had some decent motivations because of like the father daughter sort of thing, and I was like, huh, that is a bit interesting. Um, maybe not great or whatever for the rest of it, but it's like at least they kind of got that core down a little bit, whereas the other movies did not. They were just sort of
so I
they were
mean
just
that
dumb.
one starred Alicia, what was it,
Vican-
Vikander,
Vikander, I think that's
from
right.
Ex
Yeah.
Machina, and like the
Yes.
man from Uncle. So like she was, I thought she did a serviceable job. Like there was nothing that I really could say that was like lacking. I mean, uh, I think if anything else, it was kind of, I was hopeful that they were going to make new movies based off of that. Instead, they just just kind of didn't make, it didn't do bad, but it didn't do great.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, so it was one of those. You know, I can see that they're pushing the whole new Tomb Raider. They did the Netflix show that I didn't see, but a lot of people were like mixed on.
Yeah.
Um,
I've been seeing
so
it pop
I'm,
up, and I there's too many other good things to watch right now.
yeah, so it was one of those things that like I thought, I remember I saw the trailer when that leaked, and I was like, oh, that looks neat. But at the same time, like I said, if it's not really that great, I'm already too busy wasting my time watching a bunch of anime that's probably not that great either. So I don't have enough time for another mid-level series.
Yeah. Yeah. It's there's only so much you can watch, and um, yeah. So we'll see how it goes. That last that last Tomb Raider movie was oddly enough, it was in a different era. Things have changed since then. People believe, the industry believes in video game storytelling, I guess what you could call it. Now, way more than they did back then. There's an idea of how it actually works, with TV shows at least. So it's the future. The future is bright. Future is bright.
All right. And then any more news for us then?
Last thing is just I guess kind of just a little PSA. Stellar Blade DLC comes out November 20th. This will be the near crossover, right?
Yes. And so I haven't heard word yet or not about if it's free DLC or not. Some arguments on both sides of that fence. Um, there's been no mention about anything needing to be paid or how much it is. So speculation that it's probably free. But but and it does say like uh, purchase and progress need to be made in the game. So yeah, obviously you need to buy the game, and it probably means you have to get to a certain point in the game before you can access that DLC. Uh, Not a lot more information about it. There's going to be 4 new costumes and a photo mode. Looks like a robust photo mode. But yeah, outside of that, not much more. And I'm okay with that. We'll go into it blind. It might just be able to play the game reskinned, which that's okay.
From the trailer that I saw, it looked like they're doing something different. It looked like it was it I couldn't really tell for sure, but it looked like it was more story based stuff around the near characters. But that remains to be seen. That's probably just me being hopeful. But
I mean, yeah, 'cause they showed her riding the sword like Eve does. So it
yeah,
just can be one of those scenes. It's kind of and then it shows the Ferris wheel in the background, but that's could just literally be what was it Eidos?
yeah.
I can't remember that location, the hidden location at the very end of the optional one you can do.
Okay, yeah.
So it
I mean, like even if they just throw in like some random dumb missions or whatever, just like one or two or something like that, that would be cool. But even if it's just hey, you get to play the game now and go clean up all of your trophies or whatever with the near skins on, that's fine with me. I mean, I'm okay with it, especially if it's free. If it's not free, then we have a
they
different
better include something,
then
right?
we're
I mean,
gonna have a
you
different
get to
level of
talk to Emil.
expectations. Yeah, it's
So
like okay, so if it's free, then then the expectations have pretty much been met by it existing. If it's not free, then yeah, we'll have a different conversation. But I'm excited for it. Yeah, I'm gonna download that as soon as it comes out. What is that like Wednesday from a week, almost a week from now, something like that? It would
yeah,
have to be,
and
wouldn't it?
so then we got here. Yeah, I mean, pretty much now. You mentioned that it's the coming into Unreal Engine 5. These character models. I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah. So Blender artists going to be really busy, huh? So
Yep. They're gonna be even busier than they have already been. Um, but yeah,
well, anyways, I'm looking at this photo mode, and they do have some really interesting. It reminds me of like the Horizon photo mode, where you can just make them do all sorts of poses that you can't do in game, which is really funny. And the fact that you can actually start posing uh, the side characters is fun as well. So
yeah.
I mean, I really don't get to play too much around with photo modes, but I'm pretty sure a lot of people will make some good ones, and I'll let Reddit curate my feed for me. So
I mean, some of the photos I saw from Horizon into the West, or whatever it was called. Dang it,
Forbidden West.
Forbidden West. Some of the photos I saw from that were freaking amazing. Like there was some awesome stuff. Just like really like looked like somebody had gone in with the character model and created a scene. Like from like scratch. They were like really trying to make something rather than just a video game like posing stuff, which I guess sort of similar, but it just looked way more professional than I thought could be done. So yeah, these photo modes, they are getting to be pretty cool. So I'm not expecting a lot, but it is possible. It is possible.
All right. Well, so Nick, what have you been playing, sir?
So I tried a little bit of a game called Cult of the Lamb. Did you ever play this at all?
Yeah, I played it like a year or so ago, maybe 2 years ago now,
I was
on
gonna
like the
say,
Switch.
yeah, I figured that you'd played it. I thought I remembered that you'd played it, but yeah. So this is on PS Plus. So I was like, okay, I'll try this finally. Um, It's fun. It's a fun little game. Um, it's like I I kind of I heard it was good, but like when I got into it, I was like, okay, so it's sort of like a rogue. It's a roguelike in a sort of weird way, and kind of just slashing up stuff and getting you know points and upgrades and stuff like that. That's kind of what I thought it would be, but I didn't realize how much of a home base sort of situation that there would be going on. So you have like this your cult essentially has a garden where you make little buildings and you have like sermons and stuff like that. And it kind of makes a mechanic out of everything. You get materials and stuff. And that part of the game, while it's not a like I wouldn't play a game that was just that. I think it makes it's a really good balance for all of the action that goes on. So you go out and you do all this action stuff, and then you come back. Like Moonlighter was sort of that way as well. Anyway, I just like I like games that have that good good balance. It's a really good loop. So you're not stuck just doing the same exact thing. You're kind of switching it up, and whenever you're kind of, well, I guess I'm kind of done here, you can go back out and you refresh to go slash them up some more, and then vice versa. So anyway, and then I like the art style and stuff, and it's funny. It's like not like really funny, but just sort of kind of funny, cute in some ways that I like quite a bit. And then the dice game, I forget what it's called, but I started to play that, and that seems like it would be pretty. Like I didn't get very far in it, so like it was very easy to beat the first guy that you play, but it looked like it could be pretty fun as it gets more difficult. So yeah,
Yeah, Knuckle Bones.
Knuckle Bones is what it's
So
called. Yeah,
that it's one of those games that like you don't really mean to, but next thing you know, you're spending way too much time into it. Just the
yeah,
game in general. You're like, yeah, it's pretty fun. It's pretty easy going, and it's not. It's like a it's like yeah, just another little bit, just another little bit. Next thing you know, it's like 2 a.m. You're like, dang it. Um,
yeah. It is
and
like
they've done a really
I'm
good
gonna
job
just do
supporting this
one.
game.
I'm just gonna do one more run, or I'm just gonna like do one more like little building, or I'm gonna feed my guys, or chop one more piece of wood, or mine one rock. Yeah, it is very much like one more little thing, um, which is what makes it compelling and pretty fun to play.
All right. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, it's better late than never. It's always a good game to know under your library. The fan following to this is pretty solid.
Cultish,
Um,
would you say?
yeah, yeah. I specifically avoided that. I did not want to
uh,
be too pun heavy on that one, but no, it's funny because you'll see like a lot of people just throwing like just random, just art, like fan art of things, and then just dropping like a plushie or something like that in the background, just little cult of lamb like Easter eggs and other just things that you don't belong. You're like, oh wait a minute, it's like it's there is a cult following behind it, like it's like the
of
fandom is
course.
solid, and it's rightfully so though. It really is.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, like I said, you wouldn't expect it at first, but they've really supported the game long term because it's been out for a couple years now. It's like 2022, and they've come out with quite a few DLC packs for it. I think there's a multiplayer like now as well. I don't think there was that when I played.
Yeah, that's
Um,
when I loaded it up. It popped in and said, "Hey, we got this multiplayer mode now."
yeah, so that's cool. I would like to go back into it and try that, but
They have like
it was one of
couch co-op now.
yeah, and it's like, but I hadn't like when I was playing it, I don't that wasn't a thing, or at least I don't think it was. Like I said, I played it. I got it from the library shortly after it came out,
Hmm.
and yeah, it was. I put my time into it. I'm like, this is really cool. Maybe I'll get back to it. Never got back to it. But now it's on PS Plus. So maybe I'll try getting it on there, but I won't. Just don't have the time. Uh, like in a different world maybe, but. Yeah. All right. That's cool. All right. Now we've been unfortunately, I haven't been able to finish what I wanted to play, so I will talk about that next week. Um, so to what we've been watching, slash other entertainment. So you got something new that you're
Yeah, so
hinting at.
I finished an audiobook back before Halloween. I was like, oh, I kind of want to listen to something spooky. Um, and so I looked around on Reddit and stuff for modern like horror audiobooks or novels that are good, and a couple different ones came up, and one of them that was pretty highly rated was a book called Nosferatu. Um, but it's spelled weird. It is spelled NOS4A2 because it is a license plate, uh, and that's kind of the whole premise of the book in kind of a roundabout way. Um, so this book came out in 2013 by a guy named Joe Hill. And interestingly enough, Kate Mulgrew um, was the voice actress uh, to to read the audiobook. So I don't think I knew that until I bought it, and then I was listening to it and I was like, oh my gosh, that's Kate Mulgrew, who was Captain Janeway on Voyager, and she's also done a lot of other stuff, but that's mostly where I know her from. But so uh, but this book, pretty widely considered to be good by a lot of people. It seems like. Um, I don't want to give away too much of what the story is particularly about, but I'll say that it it has a lot of Stephen King vibes. Um, so if you like that, then it might be for you. Um, and if you don't, then if you don't like Stephen King, then I don't know, maybe you could still read this, but there's a lot of nods to Stephen King throughout it. It still manages to keep its own voice, like Joe Hill manages to write, his own style. But there are a significant number of things where it's like, oh yeah, that is kind of Stephen King like. So there's kind of like I guess
But if
what
you
you.
don't want to listen to the audiobook, you can always watch the TV series. They have 2 seasons.
Oh, they made a show of it.
AMC.
Oh,
AMC
okay.
did it. It was from 2019 to 2020. It stars uh or at least it shows the guy for what's his name? Zachary Quinto.
Oh,
He's on the
interesting.
cover.
Oh,
Um
is he
he's
Charlie
Charlie.
Mix? Okay.
Yep.
He's okay,
So
that's pretty good. That is a pretty good casting for that character, I guess. Um I had no idea this was a TV show. I mean, I haven't had cable in a long time. Um but yeah, yeah, interesting.
we know what you're gonna be doing the next week or two. Uh
No,
20 episode binging.
nope. Because the second part that I will get to is that I thought it was I thought it was a pretty good show or a pretty good show. I thought it was a pretty good audiobook through through most of it, but it was kind of slow and kind of boring in certain parts. And I thought that the end was not really all that great. I definitely, as I was listening to it, I was not really paying attention all that much. And I thought there were some pretty silly things that happened. And I was like, okay, I guess that's how you want to do it. And so yeah, so I have a buddy at work that is he's big into audiobooks, and so we talk about him sometimes. So I mentioned that I was reading this or listening to this, and I went to him today, and I was like, "Yeah, I don't really think I can recommend it." Um, so, um, yeah, it's it's not bad, um, but there's some things in it that just sort of sort of irritated me, and also I just don't think it was the highs didn't really get there for me. Wasn't really climactic enough for me in a lot of ways. So yeah, that's kind of where I guess I'm gonna leave it.
All right. Uh, yeah, but how long was that audiobook?
Only 20 hours,
Okay, not
so
terrible.
that's pretty much par for the course. I think the the Blade itself and the first Law series, I think those were 25 ish, something like that. So those are a little bit longer. I think that they were. I could be wrong, but this was 20, and I remember like whenever I started it being like, oh, 20 hours. Okay, that's not too bad. Um, so yeah, but a lot of people like it. I mean, you start going on Reddit, and people are like, it gets recommended all the time. Um, Goodreads is pretty is pretty picky. Generally, the ratings on Goodreads are lower than a lot of other places, I think, and it gives it like a little bit above a 4 star out of five kind of rating. So um, I don't know. I don't know. To take that for what you will. Um, and yeah, there's probably some people who would like it, obviously, but I can't recommend it. So yeah.
All right. All right. Quick rundown of some anime. All right, we have here. I'm gonna mention some ones that I'm surprised or dislike, and some stuff that I'm enjoying. So, real quick here, Mausama, retry exclamation point R. Uh, the fact that this got a second season astonished me. Season one was like, goodness, I want to say like 4 or 5 years ago or something. Might have, it was pre-pandemic actually. Now I think about it, probably. And I just remember the animation was just complete garbage. I remember it was like I couldn't believe that this thing was made. Long story short, guy playing created a MMO, and the server was getting shut down, and he winds up and said MMO. He's the Demon King from his game. He's in a different world now, but he has his like admin privileges, but they're all like level blocked. So he's trying to build himself a new kingdom, and he's slowly like recruiting his old like lieutenants. One of the ones he recruits is like a psycho doctor, female doctor who loves cutting up people essentially, but she's also just wicked smart. Uh, and yeah, once again, it was really generic, really bland, uh, and it just looked like complete trash. I was just amazed that this thing like was made, and like now season two on the other hand, uh, looks leaps and bounds better.
Mm,
It's just a solid. It just looks solid. It's not like you know crazy great or anything like that, but compared to before, it was yeah, for sure. But I mean, so there's nothing really to harp on it, but it's like season 2 takes place, so long after season 1, so most people don't even remember, and they kinda spend, like, 2 episodes slightly recapping, but not. It's like
mm,
they show some new origin backstory, and then they just completely skip the whole, like, season 1 and go straight into season 2, so if you have no idea what happened, uh it doesn't explain squat. It really doesn't. It's just like, wow, you look like you were going to do like a recap, and then you decide to give the bare bones, not even the bare bones, and it's just like, and just jump. And
Did
so
they
it's
have
like, all
some
right,
kind of a fresh start where they were like, yeah, we're not going to recap because nobody watched the first season, and we're just going to kind of start with a new sort of story?
I no, it's like his village is already up and running, which he had established before. He made it into a kind of he's trying to make it a resort thing to bleed the nobles. and none of that is explained. And he has people who are with him that make no sense because you're like, well, you don't know what their story is. People are upset about him and another version of himself because he has like a Yankee, like a thug version of like so his character design is slick back hair, long hair mobster in a business suit. And so he has his like biker gang variant of himself that caused trouble, and people are angry at that guy because he stopped their evil plans. They don't explain any of that. They just know that oh, they just show these people who are angry. They say his alternate ego name, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. It was Dragon something, blah blah blah. I'm like that. I completely forgot. I'm like, so the fact that this is even being made is still astonishing me. It's like, yeah, no clue, no clue. Maybe the mangaka has some dirt on somebody. I don't
Maybe he
know.
has
Just it
blackmail on somebody at a production company.
honestly, it just so I can't recommend this unless if you watch season one. If you watch season one and you made it through that, then yeah, this is gonna be better than season 1, but, shoot. I mean, that bar isn't very high. So, I was just like, out of all the things to make in the world, there's so many you could just throw a dart in a bookstore, like, and just hit a random manga and probably come up better. So, yeah, no idea. Alright, so, season 2 of MF Ghost. This is Initial D, sequel, essentially, but, like, next generation. Uh, season 1 was okay. Only problem is it spends, the entire first season on, like, 2 races, if I remember correctly? 1 race, maybe? I don't know. It's been 6 episodes now, like 5 or 6 episodes, and they're still on this first race of this current season. It's worse than, like, any sports anime. I mean, it's entertaining, yes, but it's just like there's no progress. Absolutely no progress. Uh, and it's like a 3-lap race or something like that, 2, 3-lap race, and they're just man, they know how to milk it, but it's just, uh I still like it because I'm a old school Initial D fan, and I think it's neat. The new concept is it's like a future racing league where they have certain set road courses where it's power to weight ratio has all been predetermined. So you have to pick your vehicle and it has to meet certain guidelines, but you're free to choose pretty much any vehicle, but it has to have certain rules to set up. So it's like the rich man sport, and so this kid comes in with uh, a mediocre uh, a mediocre vehicle, and he knows how to drift. The drifting is like a talent that no one has anymore. No one really uses in real racing, and because it's like Japanese mountain road courses and stuff like that, he does good on the corners, but on the straightaways, he loses it to higher horsepower things. So it's like it's all about the new guy coming in starting waves, and it's like okay, I like it. The only problem is he's half European, like half English, half Japanese, and anytime he speaks in English, it is trash. It is like
Mm,
the worst. They they could have at least gotten like a high schooler who goes to like Juku or like does the after school classes better because I don't know, it's just the most heavy Japanese English accent you can ever get. Like, he's supposed to not be 100% fluent in Japanese, like, he knows enough, but he asks some basic questions and stuff like that, like, he's learning some of the Ben, and, like, that's okay, that's understandable, but when he starts counting and he just has this super thick Japanese accent, just counting numbers, and then out of nowhere, like, he's in a pinch, and he's like, I'm about to run out of, like, I'm gonna like he's trying to pass some people. He's gonna get passed. He knows that his time's running out, and all of a sudden, like, clouds roll in, some bad weather happens. It works to his advantage. He decides to say hallelujah in the most Japanese accent ever, too. I'm not even gonna try to say it because it's gonna make me sound very racist. But man, it's just like no one says hallelujah in like outside of church or singing the song, and so, like,
yeah.
yeah, it's just so cringy. It is absolute cringe, and to say it with such a bad accent is I don't know. They have a couple and the thing is they have a couple other foreigners that can't speak English either. Um, if we did the same thing, we'd be called out for it too if we made if we wrote in our story a Japanese person who spoke Japanese with the worst possible accent, or like, the konnichiwa, like we would be raked over the coals for that. But it's kind of like that. Um,
Yeah.
I just
Yeah,
it bothers me
they
so
should
much.
they should write it so I don't know why you like if you're gonna write somebody that's fluent in that language, you really gotta nail it whenever they actually speak. You gotta find somebody that can do that. I guess it's pretty hard to do that in Japan, but otherwise, it's like you have to. I think people would be more it would be easier on it, or it would sound more okay if it was like, "Hey, I'm like English is not my first language or whatever, but I know some, and here's where I'm going to use it." And so it's like, well, yeah, that's why he sounds bad because he's not a native speaker. Uh, so that could be forgiven, but it's like this person's a native speaker and they can barely count properly, um, or say hallelujah properly. It's just not a good look. And I whenever they do that, it's just very hard to like
It's
look
a pet
past it.
peeve of mine. It's always been a pet peeve, and they've always used it in like one or two words in just pop songs or just in music in general, and it's like I always just kind of flinch when I hear that too. So it's always just an odd thing, but it's Japan for you, right? Uh,
Yeah.
so I was like, all right, but MF Ghost, if you like racing and if you like the Initial D, this is more of that, but I think Initial D is actually better. But still, this is entertaining enough. It's supposed to be a direct sequel. I find it more of a spiritual sequel,
Mm,
because it's just not as solid. But overall, it's still if you want to reminisce with your Euro beats, I mean there you go.
yeah.
And
Zero
all right,
beats.
but so it's a new thing that feels old, and so same as this next one. Uh, so this is You Are Miss Servant. You Are Miss Servant is an anime with a kid, your anime male protagonist living by himself for some reason. Parents, who knows what. Um, and then a maid comes to his doorstep and offers to help him. Uh, oh yeah, and she's an assassin, former assassin.
Okay.
And he doesn't ask any questions. He's just like, uh, you know, some incidents ensue, and he's like, "You know what? Okay, fine. I was gonna say no to hiring you, but why don't you come live with me, and you can live. You're my live-in maid now." Um, it feels like it's 1999 all over again, or something like that. It's like back in late 90s, early 2000s. This was kind of a common, like a trope. Like you'd have, I don't know, Mahoromatic, which was like a robot maid, comes out of nowhere, helps a guy out, and she works for an organization. That kind of story was, you know, it just was there. Of course, they don't tell any of the backstory until like end of the first season, and or something like that. I'm like, no, no, you're gonna have some stranger just live with you, and then just be like, okay, no questions asked. Like, how do you know? Why did you come here? Nothing. Okay, but I don't know. It's decently animated. Um, and if you just like it's slight rom-com, I guess. Uh, it's really weird. It's wild. It feels so old. It doesn't feel like a current anime at all. Um, it's just okay. That's all I'm gonna leave with it. Uh, and then back, it's still again with the old is new thing. The new Ranma One Half. So Ranma One Half 2024. Um, this this was leaked on by the Netflix, and I think I might have mentioned it before, but it's doing okay. It hits a lot of the same beats. The animation is good. Like I said, it's not all 100% one to one, but there's a lot of overlap. Um, yeah, I think it's all right. I mean, I don't think at this point you don't need to. It's not like oh no, you have to watch the original. This is this is does a disservice. I'm like, no, so far so good. You don't if you haven't seen the original Rama One Half, you're just fine watching this one, at least for now, until they screw up something down the road because it's Netflix. Uh, but yeah, so then we have Mao 2099. All right, so I don't know, 1700s. Demon Lord gets slain by the hero, and like he's going to resurrect, and he tells the hero that. Uh, So then
Is
flash
it
forward.
is this related to Mao Sama retry?
Nope.
Okay.
Mao just means demon lord.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, Mao is the demon lord.
Gotcha. Okay.
So you'll have tons and tons of uh
Mouse.
anime manga with Mao in it, something or other Mao. In fact, one of the first isekais that I really like, long isekai series that I saw in an anime form was about Mao something or other, and it was like, it was okay. So, anyways, this dude then teleports to 2099, where he gets resurrected by one of his underlings, and it's now a like a cyberpunk ish future. It's more of a dystopian, uh, and everyone has more or less their PCs or like your cell phone devices put in the back of your head, kind of like the Matrix, jack port.
Okay.
So it's like Johnny Mnemonic almost or something. Um, and one of the demon lord servants turns out to be the new tech guru, uh, head of the corporate evil industry. And he specifically made his new lifestyle affirming thing that can handle magic and other things like that. It handles your daily necessities. It's your PDA and everything all built into one. Um, but it can't work on the demon lord because he pre-programmed it so it wouldn't work on him. Which, yeah, it's he just essentially is like, I hate you. I didn't want to be your underling, and now I'm going to be I'm going to be the ruler of this world. Peace out. And I don't know. It's okay. It seems to be funny enough. I found it. Their whole concept is the fantasy world that they lived in literally collided with more or less our timeline, our world. So, um, so our world has no magic but has tech merged with the fantasy knights and magic realm, and the two, whatever event horizon or something like that. Like just both worlds meshed into one, and that's why this tech boom came. Uh, and now that he's a jobless, freeloader living off his underlings, like he needs to make his own income. And of course, what does he do? He decides to become a streamer.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's 3 episodes in, and it's okay. The English voice dub for it, I can't remember the voice actor's name, but I really do enjoy his voice. So I'm going to continue watching it. I like it. I think it might be worth your time for it. But I'm happy with it. All right, now let's see, season 3 of Arefuta.
Arifureta.
It's I'm sorry, Arefureta. That's the This one is the from common job class to the strongest in the world. Uh, Classroom gets isekai'd. Dude gets dropped in a hole, literally into deepest depths of the dungeon, and he gets severely injured. Like literally, his hand bitten off by a monster, and he digs himself a hole, and he magically he gets healed by a magical item like special crystal water type of thing, and he eats the monsters to survive, gains their powers, and is on a revenge fueled romp. But then he happens to meet a little vampire girl, and this is all season 1 stuff. So essentially, he ends up making more harem friends. Is the best way I can explain them. He gets a bunny girl, so I know you're in, Nick, automatically. Um, and it ends up they conquer some major dungeons, get super strong, massive OP, and yeah. So this series has kind of been fun, but like it's most definitely very different because the beginning was like super revengey. So if you liked the beginning to Shield Hero, that whole like dark and gritty kind of concept and being that struggle to survive. But then all of a sudden it goes from that to him crafting super tech, firearms and cannons and stuff like that, and making vehicles. And that's just like him being the biggest tool bag there is, and just being a jerk to everybody because he has the power and he can. Uh, so season 3 starts off really strong. Actually, I was afraid that it wasn't going to go anywhere because I'm like, season 2 was okay, but it got a little long. It's just like it just didn't hit as hard,
Mm.
and he meets up with in the beginning of season 3, he meets up with the bunny tribe in a random spot, and he helps them out because they're being hunted. And turns out they were actually setting a trap for the people that were supposed to be hunting them. And all the characters, all the people he knew beforehand, they changed all their names, and they've all become like the what's that? The in Konosuba, the mage tribe, how they're all chunies and
Oh
they all
yeah,
have super weird names.
yeah.
Um, so that's exactly how they're all introducing them. No, boss, my name's no longer that. This is my new name. And they have some weird tagline, and it's like, and he's just uh the the other classmates that happen to come from our world are all snickering to themselves because he's like, "Did you make them become all these? Did you make them become edge lords? Is that you? This is your influence?" You know. Uh, and they were like, "Yeah, so boss, we need to make you a new name." And they're debating between like, I forget now, red murder mist or something like that, and white fang something. And it's just like it's ridiculous, but they're really just being cheeky and silly. And I was like, all right, I wasn't expecting that. And then later on, they start cursing, but instead of like he's yelling at somebody, but then he yells bleep, and I'm like, wait, was that just a mistake? And then later on, someone else is cursing at someone else, like, they got one of the bunny people are being tortured, but they're strong enough to withstand it, and they're heckling the guys torturing them. Like, "Is you like, put your weight into it," and he starts yelling at them, but he starts saying bleep as well. I'm like, "Oh, this is a thing now." Instead of swearing, they're just gonna say bleep, and I'm like, and then the guards eventually yells like, why is it so much worse that he's bleeping at me? Like, instead of just swearing, and I'm like, "Okay, so now they're not only." I'm like, "Okay, I thought it was just maybe like, referential," but I'm like, "They are going full in on this." I'm like, "So this has suddenly become, like, a gag anime?" I don't know. It's weird.
It's not
So
quite
it's like,
breaking the fourth wall, but it basically is
yeah,
in
see,
that
and I
one
I I
point.
thought maybe the bleeps were only supposed to be for us, but they made reference to them saying bleep, and I'm like, "Okay." Uh,
Okay.
yeah, I don't know, man. Uh, but it's so silly that I'm like, "Okay, I'm in." I like the original story. I actually stopped reading the manga in season 2 because I'd read the manga for a long time, but when season 2 finished, it actually passed the manga, so I'm like, "Okay, I'm done now." Because by the time the manga catches up, it'll be forever, and I'm just not gonna keep up with it anymore,
Yeah.
and I just assumed it was dead. Um, so the fact that they have a season 3, I'm like, "Alright, I'm in for this ride, and it's silly and stupid."
In for a
Alright.
penny, in for a pound.
And going with the silly and stupid, we have Shangri-La Frontier, season 2. I really dug season 1, and season 2 is pretty much going pretty solid. Only a couple episodes in, and it's more of the same. I mean, if you like season 1, you're gonna like season 2. For those who don't know, Shangri-La Frontier is, a bunch of people playing in an MMO. Not isekai, just normal people playing in a VR game. No death, no nothing, just playing a game.
Just dudes,
Uh,
people just playing a video game as an anime TV show. Okay.
yeah,
That's
I mean,
kind of
it's kinda nice
bold.
that.
When you think about it, that's actually maybe the craziest thing you could actually do. Um, okay. Okay.
Yeah, there's no high level stakes. It's not like we're fighting in a tournament. We gotta become number 1,
It sounds like a
like,
slice of
or
life. Sounds like a slice of life anime.
I mean, yeah, it's them questing, trying to, so they're playing, Shangri-La Frontier, the biggest MMO in the world, and it's like the quintessential AAA game, and it's just like the AI character. There's a bunch of unique scenarios that you can get, uh, and the NPCs when they die, they're dead. So it's neat. I mean, I really like season 1. Season 2 is going on really good, so far, and I just kind of want to see because they're hinting at this whole big lore of the world, which no one knows because no one's gotten like they're making headway into the actual campaign. Um, so yeah, it's one of those. It's just an enjoyable comedy. I mean, it's it's nice not to have such high level drama and just just chill, just watch some anime, enjoy your time.
Yeah. I guess that's kind of is what what playing games with your friends pretty much ultimately is just a comedy. You know, pretty much no matter what you're doing, it's with your friends, it's just going to be kind of
Unless if you're
funny,
playing League and then you're just swearing at everyone.
and then you just hate
Uh,
yourself. But that's a different story. No one on there is
that's going to
friends.
be in your memoirs, for sure.
Yep, probably not, but we'll see. We'll see.
You tried making me go down that dark path. I was
Yeah,
almost there.
it was a dark path. It was definitely a dark path that I thought I could get you to go down a little bit, but it
I ended up watching way more than I actually played, but once again, it was if that game was more approachable and you didn't get cursed at just for not knowing how, just trying to learn. So
it is a yeah. I mean, it's not as deep as Dota or anything like that, but it is a lot. It does take a long time, oddly enough, to get to where you have enough knowledge to be good at it, even in the slightest. But yeah, yeah. Shangri-La Frontier, huh? Okay.
you
Cool.
didn't get to watch season one. I still recommend watching season one. I think it's enjoyable. Give it a few episodes. If you don't like season one, then just bounce. Um, but it's like I said, it's the right kind of stupid, and there's no heavy stakes, no drama. Just it's just a decent anime with that looks good. All right,
Nice.
that's it for the updates that I got, and there's plenty more, but we'll see what we get to next week. All right.
Okay.
So Nick, until next week, what are some words of wisdom you can give the people out there?
Um, you know, um, uh, it's it's always good to try the beer that you can't buy at the grocery store, even if it's
Yeah.
no. I'm just gonna leave it at that. It's always good to buy the beer you can't buy at the grocery store. So that's what I've got for
All
you.
right. Words of wisdom indeed. Well, if you made it to the end, we appreciate it. Thank you very much. And this has been ADP. Until next time, y'all take it easy.
Bye.